Hi grade 11s, welcome to our maths lesson. So if this is your first time watching our lesson, please make sure that you hit that subscription button so you don't miss the next lesson. By subscribing to our channel, we'll make sure that you feel at home. So this is the question paper that we're going to discuss, and this is a June past paper. So let's look at this question 1. So question 1 is 30 marks. So algebra is where we need to collect all the marks. So I'm just going to dive into the questions without wasting any time. Look at this 1.1.1. So this is an IEB past paper. IEB, yeah. So if you're doing IEB, this is the best lesson for you. You need to sit in, make sure that you watch the lesson. So let's look at this 1.1.1. They want us to solve for x. So the first question, they say solve for x if x is an element of what? If x is an element of natural numbers. So we'll come back to that statement. We'll definitely come back to where they say x is an element of natural numbers. This tells you that you need to reject something at the end. Yeah? So now look at this. Okay, we see that they already take out x as a common factor, but this is equated to 4. We can't use the zero product property. We can't say x is equal to 4 or whatever that we have inside the bracket, the x minus 3 is equal to 4. I say, okay, so now the best thing to do, I think we can just multiply out the brackets here. And what do we get when we multiply out the brackets? So each and every term inside, we need to multiply that by x. So this will give us x squared. Then we multiply the negative 3 with x, which is minus 3x. And remember, this is equated to 4. So please make sure that when you work with quadratic equation, you put this in the correct standard form. So it should be in the form of ax squared. So we need to put it in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c and equate everything to 0 so that you can be able to factorize. So if we put this in standard form, this will be x squared minus 3x. We transpose the 4 to the left hand side and it becomes minus 4. Equate this to 0 now. It's the best time for you to factorize this question. So when we factorize this, this is equal to 0. What do you get? So this will be x. So we need the factors of 4 that when we add or subtract them, they will give us the middle term of 3x. We need to list those factors of 4. We know that it's 4 and 1. And then let's look at other 4 factors. So we can have 1 and 4. The 1 can be negative, or you can have like minus 4 and 1, or we can have 2 and 2, minus 2 and 2. So you just have to choose the factors that will give us minus 3 when we add them. And look at this. The factors that gives us minus 3 is this one. Because if we say minus 4 plus 1, this gives us negative 3. So I'm just going to go to there and substitute. I know that my other bracket should be minus 4 and the other bracket should be positive 1. So x minus 4 is equals to 0, or we can say x plus 1, this is equals to 0. So what you need to do, I think you can take it from this part, right? I think you can take it from this step. So what we need to do, we need to say that x is 4, or the value of x is equal to minus 1. Remember, we don't need to make any mistakes. That's why it's very important for me to explain this problem step by step. So look at this. If x is an element of natural numbers, solve for x. So you need to understand what are natural numbers. So remember, Natural numbers, we call them the counting numbers. So remember, the counting numbers are positive integers, because you can't say we use natural numbers to count objects, items, you see, and they start from 1 all the way to infinity. So natural numbers are all the positive integers, all the positive integers. So now you need to decide what is the value of x. We don't need this guy, therefore x must not be negative, so x must not be equals to 1. We'll only accept x to be equals to 4. Let's move to the next question. So now what I need to tell you before we start this one, look at the statement inside the bracket. Leave your answer in simplest sat form. What is that statement saying? Once you see this statement, just know that the statement is telling you to use the quadratic formula, which is x is equals to minus b plus or minus the root of b squared minus 4ac, and everything is divided by 2a. Okay, so if we go back to this question paper, the formula was given on this paper. This is the formula. But now, before you use this formula, just make sure that everything is in standard form. This equation should be in the form of ax squared plus bx plus c. So when you look at this equation, it's in standard form. Now you need to determine what is the value of a, what is the value of b. So the value of a is 4 because that's the coefficient of x squared. Whatever number that you have in front of x squared is the value of a. Look at this. A, whatever number that you have in front of x squared. So what will be the value of b? The value of b will be the number that is in front of what? The number that is in front of x, because it's the coefficient of x. Then we just gonna say this is equals to, please make sure that this term you take it with what? With the sign. So this will be minus 4, and this will give us the value of c, which is the constant value. It doesn't have any variable, this one, then it will be minus 1. Then we good to go. We can just go and substitute this on the formula. So what will be x? Therefore the value of x is equals to negative b, which is minus 4. So this will be minus 4, and then plus or minus the root of what we have inside the bracket, which is the value of b. This will be minus 4. Okay, so this will be minus 4. b is minus 4. This is squared. Minus 4 into the value of a, which is 4, and the value of c is minus 1. Then I need you to make sure that you divide everything by what? Divide everything by 2 into the value of a, which is 4. Okay, so now to put this in the simplest sat form, I'm just gonna try and work this thing out. So x will be equals to, multiply this 2, minus and a minus, that's positive 4, plus or minus. So I'm just gonna punch in on this the calculator whatever that I have inside the bracket. So let's put everything that we have inside the bracket, which will be minus 4, and this is squared. We minus 4 into 4 into minus 1. Let's see what we get there. So this is what we have inside the square root. So this is 32. This is 32. So now this will be the root of 32 divided by what? Divided by 8. So before you do anything, please check if you can simplify the root of 32, because before you do anything, I need you to check if you can simplify the root of 32 before you leave your answer, because they said leave your answer in the simplest sat form. So let's quickly work on that. So to leave this, I'm just going to find the root of 32 and see what is the root of 32 equals to. So we can write 32 as 4 root 2. So this is the same as saying this is x, it's equals to 4 plus or minus 4 the root of 2 divided by what? By 8. But even though we can still continue and take out that x as a common, the 4. We have the 4, we have the 4, and it's plus or minus. So x will be equals to 4 out as a common factor, and then, or we can just leave this as 4 minus 4 root 2 divided by 8, or the value of x, it's equals to 4 plus 4 root 2 everything divided by 8. Because I think if you decide to take out 4 as a common factor, we can simplify and say x is 4 inside the bracket. I'm left with 1 minus the root 2 divided by 8, so that we can take the 4 and the 8, we divide those two. So this one, the value of x will be equals to 1. So this will be 4 goes into 8 2 times. So this is just 1 minus the root 2 over 2. And then, or this side will have x, 4 out as a common factor, then we are left with what? 1 plus the root 2, everything divided by 8, divide the 4 and the 8, which gives us x to be 1 plus the root 2 over 1, over 2. And I think when it's like this, it is in the simplest form. Right, let's look at the next one. Let's see what we have here. And I think this one is 5 marks, but when I look at this already, the square root is isolated. So I'll just go straight and square both sides, because the square root is isolated. I can say this is 2 minus x squared. It's equals to the root of x minus 2 squared. Why? We need to get rid of that square root. How do we get rid of the square root? By squaring both sides. So this 2 minus x, I can expand that and write this as 2 minus x into 2 minus x. This is equal to the other side, the x minus 2, the square root will cancel. So this square root and that 2 will cancel. And what do you have? We just have x minus 2. So the next thing, multiply out the bracket using the FOIL method this side. So this will be 2 times 2, and then this will be 2 times minus x. So this will give us 4 minus 2x, and then we do the same. We do the same with the minus x. We're going to take the minus x, multiply the 2, then the minus x multiply that minus x. So let's quickly work on that. Then you can add the like terms. So this will be minus x times 2, which gives us minus 2x, then minus x times minus x, which is positive x squared, and this is equal to x minus 2. So now I'm just going to check if I have the like terms. Can we bring everything to this side so that this one, it comes to the other side to be minus x, and the 2 comes this side to be positive 2, and then we'll only be left with 0 on the left hand side. Why are we bringing this to the other side? So that we can add the like terms. I don't want to waste time on this. I have minus 2x minus 2x, which is minus 4x, and then minus x, which will give us minus 5x. So this will be x squared minus 5x. Then I need to do the same with the 4 and the what? The 4 and the 2. So this will be 4 plus 2, which gives us positive 6. Please, you need to pay attention when you are adding your like terms, because one mistake, you're going to lose a mark for writing this in standard form. By doing this, let's see how many marks you have so far. How many marks do we have so far? First thing first, you're going to get a mark for squaring both sides. There's a mark for that. And then the next one, there's a mark for putting this in standard form, in the quadratic form. So far we have 2 marks. We need to work for the 3 marks. So let's keep going, and I think you guys know that from this step we can just factorize the problem. Let's factorize this and see what we get there. This will be my x, this will be my x. So I need the factors of 6 that when I add or subtract them, they give us the middle term of 5, which is 3 and 2, because 3 times 2, that's 6. So now let me teach you how to find the factors using the calculator. Remember the quadratic formula. What is the quadratic formula? Minus b. What is the value of b? It's 5, but the 5 is negative, okay? Then plus or minus the root of b squared, and b squared is minus what? B squared is minus 5, and this is squared, minus 4. Okay, look at what I'm going to do here. Minus 4 into the value of what? The value of it's 4ac, the value of a is 1, and then the value of c, which is positive 6. Then close the bracket, divide this by 2 into the value of a, which is 1. Guys, remember this equation in standard form. You need to know what is the value of a, what is the value of b, and what is the value of c. You need to understand the quadratic formula, the one that we just used to solve the previous question. So when I say equal sign, I get my answer as 3. So how can I get my answer as 3? Is to put this as negative 3, because if we say x minus 3 is 0, this will give us that x is equal to 3. So this is my answer. Then you go back to your calculator. Where there's positive, you change that into negative to find the other value. So you see this part here, I'm just going to change this and say this is negative, I get 2. So since this is 2, to find 2, this bracket should be minus 2, because when we say x minus 2 is equal to 0, I'll have my x to be equal to that 2. Then this is my other answer. So what is important here is that you use the quadratic formula to factorize, but do not write your quadratic formula on the answer, because why? There's a mark for factors. Don't use quadratic formula, please factorize, because if you jump and substitute into quadratic formula, you're going to lose that mark for factoring, for factorizing that quadratic. We only use the quadratic when we see the statement leave your answer in decimal form, leave your answer in simplest form. That's the case where you can use the quadratic formula. But in this case, you can use the quadratic formula to factorize. Please don't put that on your answer sheet. And now remember, we are working with stats. You need to check if you can reject between x is equal to 2 and x is equal to 3. That's another mistake that you must not make in an exam. You need to check your solution. So you need to ask yourself, how can I check my solution? Remember, we are given that 2 minus x is equal to the root of x minus 2. I need you to take your calculator, where there's x, you substitute 2. Let's start with 2. So this will be 4, x is equals to 2. And this side will do for x is equal to 3. We need to prove that if x is 2, left hand side is equal to right hand side, and if x is 3, left hand side is equal to right hand side. If that's not the case, you need to reject that x value. Okay, so this will be 2 minus 2, which gives us 0. So my left hand side, this side is 0. And what about my right hand side? So this will be the root of, we still substituting 2 now. So it's 2 minus 2, and this is 0. Therefore, for this one, left hand side is equals to right hand side. We need to do the same if x is equals to 3. Let's see what we have there. This will be 2 minus 3. So it's 2 minus 3. We get minus 1. Then the right hand side is going to be 3 minus 2. we get positive 1. So left hand side is not equal. Remember, left hand side was negative, right hand side is positive 1. So left hand side it's not equals to right hand side. So if that's the case, we need to reject. We need to reject and say x must not be equal to 3. So far, remember, you have 2 marks. Now let's see, you have 3 marks. Let's see where is the other 2 marks coming from. So now when I check this was for 5 marks. You're going to get a mark for finding your x values, right? So you get a mark for finding your x values, then you're going to get your mark for rejecting. They'll give you a mark for rejecting your answer. Please make sure that you reject your answer. Okay, so we now doing one of the most interesting question, which has to do with inequality. So let's solve 2x squared greater or equals to 18. You know what I'm gonna do this one? First thing first, let's put everything equated to 0. I'll write this as 2x squared minus 18 greater or equals to 0. So now, can we divide everything by 2? Yes. Let's divide, because it's best if you work with x squared that has the coefficient of 1. So I check, can 2 divide 18? Yes. So this will be x squared minus 9 greater or equals to 0. I just divided everything by 2. Can we factorize this? Yes. This is the difference of squares. So this is how you factorize the difference of squares. So most of the time, you'll have the difference of squares. You'll have something like this: a squared minus a perfect squared. A perfect squared. So now, when you do this, you're gonna open 2 brackets and you're gonna say a on both sides. Then you find the square root of that perfect square, which is 9. So we're going to find the square root of 9 is 3. You put it on both brackets. So this will be x3, this will be x3. So one bracket should be negative, the other one should be positive. That's how you factorize difference of squares. First thing first, you put the x on both brackets, then you find the square root of 9. The answer that you get, you put it on both your brackets. Then when you have it like that, you're going to say that one bracket is positive, the other one is negative. So now we need to, please do not treat this as an equation. This is not an equation, it's an inequality. Don't say x minus 3 is equals to 0. Don't do that. Instead, try to solve this in your head, because if you solve this, you can see that x will be 3 and x will be minus 3. So this tells you that your CV, critical values, is always write the small one first. So since they are included, this sign here, it tells you that those values are included. So if they are included, we use this bracket. If it's only this sign, you're gonna use the small bracket. So now, if I submit it like this, I'm going to be very wrong. I need to use a big bracket. So this will be minus 3 all the way to what? To 3. These are my critical values. Then you're going to draw a number line like this. You put your minus 3 there, you put your 3. Then look at this. The value of A is positive, the value of A is positive. So your graph is concave up. Right. Please try to also give them this drawing. Try to give them this drawing. So now from this drawing, I'm going to say that I can see that this part here and that part. So I need to choose any number between minus 3 and 3. So I always like to choose 0. If I have a negative and a positive, I choose 0. You're going to take that 0, you substitute it where? On the simplified equation. You're going to sub in x to be 0. and see what do you get. So this will be 0 squared, then we say minus 9. What do we get? We get our answer as minus 9, but we're only interested in what? The sign minus the sign. So we are interested in knowing what is the solution between these two numbers. It's negative. Minus 9 is negative. So if the middle part, if between minus 3 and 3 is negative, just know that the other side will be positive. Then now you can answer the question. The question is asking, where is this greater or equals to 0? Where is it positive? It's positive where? From this point here, going in that direction. So I'm going to say x, then you write this arrow, greater or equals to 3. Or the value of x from this point going in that direction. So it will be x, write that arrow, less than or equals to negative 3. And ladies and gents, that's your solution. When you give it to them like this, you're definitely gonna get your 4 marks. So now, this is how they're going to give you the marks. First thing first, they want to see the factors. These factors, there's a mark for that. Okay, then they will give you a mark for finding the critical values, and there's definitely a mark. Most of the time they can also mark the sketch, or they can give you a mark for the final answer. Sometimes if the question was more complicated, they'll mark for putting this in the standard form. So just make sure that you give them everything that they need. I hope you guys are happy about that. And I think that's it for the algebra part where we are solving for x. Let's move to the next section of this question paper, which has to do with nature of the roots. Nature of the roots. So now, they say that the roots of a quadratic equation are given, and we can see that. And the question is asking for which values of k will the roots be real? For which values of x will the roots be real? You know, I think before I explain this, I need to teach you guys something. I think I can show you guys something very interesting about the nature of the roots. And if you get this right, I don't think you're going to have any problems when it comes to the nature of the roots. Okay, grade 11s, I'm just gonna make this easy and simple for you to understand. So remember, to find the nature of the roots, we use the formula delta is equals to b squared minus 4ac. That's the formula that we use. Okay, so now delta means the discriminant. So I'm going to say we start with the discriminant. Okay, so it's either that your discriminant, you might find that your answer is what? Your answer, you find that the discriminant is less than 0. When you punch in your values there, you find out that the discriminant is negative. So if the discriminant is negative, the nature of the root is going to be imaginary on or non-real root. So this will be a non-real root. Okay, and if the discriminant is greater or equals to 0, so it's either the discriminant will be greater or equals to 0, then you're going to have what we call the real roots. Please, I need you to move with me on this map. The real roots. So the nature of the roots, this will be real roots. Okay, so now if we continue with this, so if the discriminant is less than 0, this is where the map stops, but this side, if it's greater than or equals to 0, is going to continue. So when it continues, it's either the discriminant, you get your answer as 0. If your answer is 0, just know that you have equal roots. You're going to have equal roots. Okay, and then that's it. this is where the map is gonna stop. This is where the map is gonna stop. This is where we stop. But now, if the discriminant is greater than 0, we're going to continue. So the nature of the roots is going to be unequal roots. Unequal roots. But this one will keep on going. So if it's unequal roots, it's either we're going to have the discriminant not a perfect square. Not a perfect square. I'm going to explain that now. Not a perfect square. Or you're going to have your discriminant to be equals to a perfect square. Right. So let's say that you got your discriminant to be 17. 17 is not a perfect square because look at this. When I put 17 on my calculator, what is the root of 17? You see, 17 is not a perfect square, but what is the root of 9? What is the root of 9? It's 3. The root of 64, you see, that's 8. So those are perfect square. And if you find that the discriminant is a perfect square, the nature of the roots is going to be rational roots. And if you find that the discriminant is not a perfect square, it's going to be irrational. Now, let's go back to the question paper. What is the question paper saying? For which values of k will the roots be real? So we need to go back to the board and see when is the nature of the roots. When are we going to get that to be real? Okay, let's go back to the board now. For which values of x will k be the roots be real? So when I look at this, in order for us to get real roots, the nature of the roots, the discriminant should be greater or equals to 0. Remember, we said that the discriminant is this formula. Where do we get this formula? From the quadratic equation. Look at the quadratic equation. The b squared, whatever that you have inside your square root is delta. So delta is equal to b squared minus 4ac. So now I'm just going to look at what I'm given here. Whatever that you have inside that square root. So delta, my discriminant is what? 1 minus 3k. But the question is asking, for which values of k will the roots be real? Remember, if the roots are real, the discriminant must be greater or equal to 0. So we need to take whatever that we have inside the square root and say the discriminant must be greater or equal to 0. What is the discriminant? It's 1 minus 3k must be greater or equal to 0. Then you solve. So the best way to solve this, I'll take the 1 to the other side. I have minus 3k greater or equal to 0. Then let's say, remember, we are putting the 1 to the other side. So this will be minus 1. So now divide both sides by minus 3. Divide by minus 3. Therefore, what is k equals to? Now, when we divide by negative or we are multiplying by negative and we are working on inequalities, the sign will change from greater to less than. So the answer is x must be less than or equals to 1 over 3. This is how easy for you to collect that 2 marks. I hope that makes sense. Right? So now if we keep on going, they are asking for which values of k are the roots equal. Will the roots be equal? So remember, for equal roots, the discriminant must be what? The discriminant must be equals to 0. We take whatever that we have there inside the square root. What do you have? Delta is 1 minus 3k. Whatever that you have, we equate it to 0. 1 minus 3k, equate that to 0 and solve for k. So we do the same thing, divide both sides by negative 3. Therefore, k is equals to 1 over 3. So now the k is just 1 over 3. We can keep adding these questions and ask for which values will the discriminant be non-real. If the discriminant is non-real, remember the discriminant is equals 1 minus 3k. So this tells us that 1 minus 3k should be less than 0, then you start solving. So when you solve, this is minus 3k less than minus 1, divide by minus 3. So the sign will change into 1 over 3. Simple. That's it for nature of the roots. Let's see what we have next. Oh, this is 5 marks. Wow, we're going to have so much fun working on this question. Now, look at this. I think you don't have to get scared because of that mark allocation. That's nothing, because looking at this question, it's already in quadratic form. So this is ax squared plus bx plus c. It's already in quadratic. We know what is the value of a is just 2. What is the value of b? Everything that you have inside the bracket. Remember, the value of b is everything in front of x. It's the coefficient of x, which is p minus 3. And then now the value of c is equals to what? 8. Now we can read the question. The question says that we are given that determine for which values of p the roots will be non-real. Remember, for non-real, the discriminant must be what? The discriminant must be less than 0. Then this is for non-real. Let's go back and work on that. For non-real, the discriminant must be less than 0. So the discriminant must be less than 0 for non-real. The discriminant must be less than 0. What is the formula for the discriminant? B squared minus 4ac. It must be less than 0. Then we're going to substitute on that formula. What is the value of b? It's p minus 3. This is squared. Minus 4, the value of a is 2, the value of c is 8. Then this must be less than 0. Then you start solving. Expand the bracket. This is p minus 3 into p minus 3. And then minus 4 into 2 into 8 less than 0. Now we can multiply out of the bracket and add the like terms. So this is p times p, and then we're going to say p times minus 3. So what do we get there? This will be p squared minus 3p. Then we do the same with that minus 3. We're going to say this is, we're multiplying those two. What do we get? So this will be minus 3p plus 3 times, it's minus 3 times minus 3, which is positive 9. We minus 4 times 2 times 8. What do you get when you multiply those 3 numbers? So it's going to be 4 times 3 times 8, and this gives us 64. Oh, this gives us 96. No, it's 4 times 2. Let's see. Four times 2 times 8, and this is 64. Okay, so this is 64 less than 0. Do we have the like terms? Yes. Add those like terms. What do we get? P squared minus 6p, then 64 minus 9. That's 55. Né? Let's quickly confirm that. 64. Okay, so it's 9 minus 64. We get minus 55. So this will be minus 55 less than 0. Can we factorize this? Yes. Remember, I just showed you how to factorize using a calculator. Let's go to the calculator, because if you look at this, what is the value of a? The value of a here, we have the value of a as 1. We have the value of b as minus 6, and the value of c as minus 55. Let's go and substitute this on the quadratic equation. So this will be minus into the value of b, which is minus 6. Okay, then plus the root of what is this? The root of b, which is minus 6 squared. then we're going to minus 4 into the value of a, which is 1, and the value of c, which is minus 55. This is the best way to factorize a quadratic equation. So this will be 2 into the value of a, which is 1, close the bracket, you get 11. So if you get 11, to find 11, this should be p minus 11, because therefore p will be equal to that 11 that you got. Let's go back to the calculator. Where there's positive, we change the sign into negative. So this will be negative equals to minus 5. So to find p minus 5, this will be p plus 5. So now, therefore, this is what? This is p, it's equals to minus 5. But remember, this is not an equation. Please don't put this on your answer sheet. This is not your, it's not an equation. Instead, we can say this is what? CVs, critical values. We start with the small one, which is minus 5, the bigger one, which is 11. Then, why are we using inequalities as CV? Because of the sign. This is an inequality. We need to treat it as an inequality. The value of a here is positive, and this will be concave up. Okay? Right, so this is my 11, this is my minus 5. Remember what you do. Choose any number between minus 5 and 11. So since I have a negative and a positive, I'll choose 0. And then you substitute on this equation. 0 on that equation. So this is 0 minus 0 minus 55. So that gives us negative 55. So this tells you that the solution between is negative. So if the solution between is negative, the other side will be positive. So the question is asking, where is this less than 0? Where is this negative? From this point going in that direction, and from this point going in that direction. So x must be less than what? X must be less than 11 and greater than minus 5. So this is your final solution. But not x, we are talking about p. Let's remove that now. Right, because we are referring to, we are working with p. So p must be less than 5 and p must be greater than minus 5. And that's it for that question. Let's work on the last question of question 1, which is 1.4. This has to do with simultaneous equations. So in order for you to master this one, you need to revise the laws of exponents, because you can see that we need to manipulate this equation to create one equation. So let's work on that. 81, I'm just going to go to my calculator and see if I can write that 81 to base 3. So this will be 81 equals sign, shift, then I'm going to say fact. So I can write that as 3 to the power 4. So 81, we can write it as 3 to the power 4. Everything here is to the power x, which is equal to 3 to the y. Can we multiply the exponents? Yes. So this is the same as 3 to the power 4x. It's equal to 3 to the power y. Bases are equal. Therefore, the exponents are equal. So 4x is equal to y. I'm just going to call this what? Equation 1. So now, remember, if this is equation 1, maybe we can call this equation 2. Because now we know what is y. It's 4x. So on this equation, where there's y, you need to, I think this is the easiest simultaneous equation I've ever seen. Because now I know what is y, it's 4x. I can sub in, we can sub in that equation 1 into the equation 2. So remember, where there's y, we put 4x. So this will be 4x, it's equals to 4x, it's x squared minus 6x plus 9. So now let's group the like terms. This will be x squared minus 6x. The 4x comes this side to be negative 4x plus 9. Then everything is 0. So this will be x squared minus 10x, then plus 9. It's equal to 0. Can we factorize this? Yes. So now, please remember to use the quadratic formula if you don't know how to find the factors. But looking at this, the factors is just 9 and 1, and since it's positive, both of them should be negative. So x is equals to 9, or the value of x is equals to 1. So maybe let's explain how we got that, how we got the x minus 9 and x minus 1. Let's explain that. Remember to use the quadratic formula. You can always use the quadratic formula, but do not write that on your answer sheet. So this will be minus b, the value of b is it's minus 10. So this will be minus b into minus 10, close the bracket, plus the root of minus 10 squared, then minus 4 into a, which is 1, and c, which is positive 9. Then everything divided by 2 into 1. Then when I punch this, I got 9. So to find 9, I need to say inside the bracket the 9 is negative. Then you go back and substitute that as negative, and you should get 1. To find 1, we need to put the 1 as negative inside the bracket. So if these are my x values, I can find the corresponding y values. What will be the corresponding y values? So y will be equals to 4, where there's x, we're just gonna put 9, and therefore what is y? Or y will be equals to 4, where there's x, we put 1, this side y is just 4, then 4 times 9, we can use the calculator for that. 9 times 4, this gives us 36. So those are your values of y. Those are the corresponding y values. So now, look at this. How are we going to collect the marks? For changing this in this form and creating equation 1, already you have 2 marks. And then for the correct substitution, there's a mark for that, and they'll give you a mark for factors. Or, yes, they will give you a mark for factors. Let's remove this one. The 1 mark will go for factors. So the 1 mark will go for factoring this, and then for this 2, there's a 1 mark, and for this 2, there's another mark. And that's it for question 1. This is how you answer question 1 of your question paper. I hope you guys enjoyed how to answer the question 1. So on our next lesson, we're going to work on question 2. So if this is your first time watching our lesson and you enjoyed the lesson, please make sure that you hit that subscription button so that you don't miss the next lesson where we're going to work on question 2.